Hello everyone, welcome to another Java Basics video from the ToborTech YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to learn about classes and objects, beginning our adventure learning about object-oriented programming in Java. So without further ado, let's get started. Java is known as an object-oriented programming language. This programming paradigm, often abbreviated as OOP, is a very important concept in programming languages like Java. Today, we're going to learn about classes and objects, which are the two most foundational concepts in OOP. So what is a class conceptually? Well, you can think about classes as blueprints or templates for robots. A class defines the properties and the behaviors of those robots once they're actually constructed, but it is important to know that a class definition does not do the construction itself. The objects are the actual completed, constructed robots created from the blueprints, which are the classes. So the distinction here is that classes are the blueprints and objects are instances of those classes. So we're making objects from those blueprints. Object-oriented programming is often used to model real-world things. For instance, we can write a class called computer that's a blueprint for, well, computers. It will include behaviors like power on, power off, etc., as well as properties like age, operating system, password, and more. The class is just a blueprint. We have a blueprint, we have a template. It's only when we construct instances from that blueprint do we have actual objects. And we can use these objects to do the behaviors, and we can access the properties of those objects, which are specified in the class definition. So now let's take a look at OOP in Java code. In fact, you're actually already very familiar with writing the most basic class definition. You've already been using classes since the very first program you wrote in Java. That's how important OOP is in Java. So these lines should be very familiar to you at this point. So we have a method and we have a class. So this is the most basic and probably the most common way of defining class is we write class and then a space and then the word main. Well, this is the name of our class. So you can see that the M here is an uppercase M, and that is pretty common. It's convention to have the first letter of a class name to be an uppercase letter. And then we have a pair of curly brackets, inside of which are the things we write inside of the class. In addition to the main class, we can also write another class called computer, which will be a blueprint for computers. So we just write class space computer and then a pair of curly brackets. Right now, our class is empty. Let's add two methods in the computer class, power on and power off. So what we will do is we have class computer curly brackets, and inside we can just write two methods. We write public void power on parentheses, and then in curly brackets we have a print statement, and then we have power off being pretty similar. We just have a different print statement. You might notice that instead of writing what we usually write, which is public static, we just wrote public this time. The difference right now is not that important, but we'll talk about it more in a later lesson of this chapter when we talk about modifiers. So we can just write something like this, and I'm going to paste this code in our online Java editor. So let me just paste it outside of the main class because these are both classes, so they will be in the same level of our program. So we can see we have one class and we have another class. Running this program, we should get absolutely nothing besides the hello world statement here. So we should see the output right here. So there's no errors thrown. That's good. Now let's talk about objects. In the main method of the main class, we're going to construct an instance of the computer class. So we have the main class, main method. Here we can write computer, my computer is equal to new computer, and then a parentheses, semicolon. Let's take a look at the code or the syntax of the construction of a class instance. So we write computer. This is going to match this in the exact same spelling and case. So we have a capital C here. And then we write a variable name. So this time I called it my computer. And then it is equal to a new instance. We write the new. And then we write computer, parentheses, semicolon. This may be pretty familiar to you if you have used things like array lists, hash maps, or scanners before. These are all classes after all. So we can just write the class and then the variable name equal to new and then the class name again, parentheses, semicolon. So I'm going to copy this code and replace the hello world statement here. And I'm going to run it. We should see nothing printed out this time. Perfect, we got that. So now we have created an object. We have made my computer. This is an actual construction that we created from the blueprint of the computer class. So that means this class or this object can carry out the actions defined in the class definition, and it has the properties we defined in the class definition. So we can call, for instance, the power on and power off methods that we defined somewhere right here. So we can just write my computer dot power on. This is pretty similar to if you have used, for instance, let's say scanner, right? We can just write if we made a scanner object, we can write the scanner object dot and then, for instance, next or something like that. So let me just copy this code and replace our main method with it. And with our new main class, we can see we get power on and power off. So what's happening here is our entry point to our program is still the main method right here. So Java is going to run these codes, but it has also access to this class, computer. So when we say computer, it knows what we're talking about because it's right here. So we're making a new computer object called my computer. It's equal to a new computer, and we call the power on and power off methods of my computer. So we can just write my computer dot power on, parentheses, semicolon. Same thing with the power off here. This is actually the topic of our next video, which is on class attributes and methods. So if you don't quite understand what's going on here, we'll talk more about it in the next video. Right now, it's your turn to practice. Define a class and make an instance of it. If you want a small challenge, add a method or two to your class and then call them. And here is a simple solution, or I suppose it's not a simple solution, but it's a solution to this exercise. So here we have class car. We're making a template, a blueprint for cars. And here we have public void start engine. We have a method called start engine, and it's going to print out car's engine started. And we have another method, which is public double. So it's going to return double here. It's called get fuel percentage, and it's going to return math.random. And here we have the main class. We have public static void main string args, same thing as we always write. And then we write car. My car is equal to a new car. So we're making a new car object, and we're saying my car dot start engine. We're calling the start engine method of our car, and we're going to print out my car dot get fuel percentage right here. So let me copy this code and run this. We'll see car's engine started, and we have this as our car's fuel percentage. And the cool thing here is that I have my car, and we can actually make another car instance. So we can have multiple objects because we have a template, we have a blueprint. We can make multiple constructions, we can make multiple cars from that blueprint. And they will all have similar behaviors. So I can write car, my friend's car, which is equal to a new car. So I just changed the name of the variable here. It's also a car instance. And so when we call mycar.startEngine, I can also write my friend's car.startEngine, and we'll get car's engine started twice. And I can also write system.out.println my friend's car.getFuel percentage like this. And if I did not spell anything wrong, we should see 4 lines printed out. Car's engine started, that's for my car. Car's engine started, that's for my friend's car. And then we have 2 lines, which are the method calls of get fuel percentage. One's from my car and the other time from my friend's car. So that's a cool thing about OOP is we can use one blueprint and construct multiple different, separate, independent objects from that blueprint. We'll talk more about those later on. So, object-oriented programming is one of the most complex ideas in programming to someone just starting to learn Java, and it can actually be quite intimidating at first. While at first glance, classes and objects might seem utterly useless since in simpler programs, classes aren't absolutely required, you actually realize later that OOP is used literally all the time in larger programs. Don't worry if you feel a little bit confused right now about what we talked about, since in the rest of this chapter, we'll continue to explore object-oriented programming. And there you have it, classes and objects, 2 very important concepts in Java programming. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section, and our team will be more than happy to help you out. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, and we hope to see you in more Java Basics videos.